everybody, I am so excited to be talking to you about tools. Now I know at the beginning of the time that we started this 101 Club and throughout the last 8 months or so, we have been doing a lot with a lot of different tools. Some of the tools that we have used are our simple tools. We're not going to spend a lot of time talking to about those, but you know by now that there are some things that you absolutely need. You need your good acrylic blocks, you need stamp pads, you need stamps. Those are just the basics to get started. You also need a paper cutter. Now, if you have a paper cutter and stamp blocks and a few ink pads and stamps, you are good to go and you can do so much. But tonight we are going to talk about other tools that are available out there. Some that you've seen me use often, and we probably have even talked about these in the past, but they are tools that I want to share with you tonight. Now, the first tool that I have is my scoring board. Now, I have two different ones. This is the smaller one, and you can pick these up at Michael's or Joann's. These are the Martha Stewart scoring boards. This smaller one is really well sized for cards. So if all that you're interested in is card making, this is going to be the tool for you. Now, if you're going to be using needing a larger one, it does come in a 12 by 12 size, and there's so much you can do with it. Most commonly, I use mine to score when I'm making my own card bases, and we've talked about that in Card Making 101 and when we learned about making our own card bases. So I'm not going to spend time using or going into a lot of detail about that. If you have the larger board, it also comes with instructions on how to make your own envelopes to match your card sizes. So that's another really fun thing you can do with it. You can also do design effects with using a scoreboard. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you take a simple piece of cardstock, which I don't have out in front of me, but let's just pull this piece of paper here. So this is about the size of an 8.5 by 11 inch, or of a standard size card if I were to fold it like this. And so let's say that I wanted to add a border around, and I wanted it to be really subtle. I didn't want to have ink. So I could come in here at the 1/2 inch mark and score. And with all these layers, it's not going to be great. Then I could come back here at the 1/2 inch mark here and score. Then I could turn my paper at the 1/2 inch mark here, score. And then again at the 1/2 inch mark here, score. And I have created a frame that you can just barely see there. So there's lots of effects like that that you can use using your scoring tool. Now, as I've mentioned in the past, if you have a bone folder, you can accomplish a lot of the same things by going down the channel of your paper cutter. So let's move on to some of the more advanced tools that I use, and these are some of the tools that I find myself grabbing frequently. The first one is this Xyron sticker maker. Again, you can get this at your craft stores. I believe you can even get this at Walmart. I like to try to get them at with a coupon at Joann's or Michael's or somewhere like that. But these are sticker makers. Now, as you can see from this slot, you can't go very wide, maybe an inch, inch and a quarter or so. They are refillable, and they do come in two different varieties. They come in repositionable as well as permanent. And so when you're dealing with little tiny pieces, this is great to turn it into a sticker and use it and go. There are some things that if this was something that we had time to go into, we could talk about using repositionable and how that you could use them for different masking effects and those kind of things. But mostly I use the permanent one, and I use it all the time. Well, this also comes in a little bit larger variety, which is this one. This is a Xyron 250. These are made by Xyron. This one I've also had for many, many years. In fact, these I don't even think come in these colors anymore. They come in much cooler colors now. But this one is actually a 250, so it's closer to 2.5 inches wide. And so you can put a little bit larger pieces. Now, I don't have a cartridge in mine right now, but you just pull this button up. It just falls right in here, and then you just literally close it and roll this, and you've got a sticker. Now, these are not the only sizes Xyrons come in, and in fact I have one that is kind of a multi-purpose one that is 9 or 9.5 inches wide, and I can do lots of things with them. So this is kind of an upgraded size. I would start with this one, and then as time goes on and you're building your supply, this would be one that I would grab. I believe it's also available in both types of the repositionable and the permanent one. Now, then when you're going a lot, well, let's move on now to the Cuttlebug. Now, there are different things than Cuttlebugs out there. I use the Cuttlebug because it was the most cost-effective for me at the time I was purchasing this. I think full retail on it was maybe $75 or $80, and I used a coupon and got it for 40 or 50% off. And I just purchased it at a store. Close to My Heart does not sell these. However, there are things that Close to My Heart does sell that you need one of these for. Now, as I mentioned, there are other varieties. There's an electronic variety called a Vagabond. There are other types of varieties out there. Spellbinders, it has a variety or two of their own. The Sizzix Big Shot is also another variety. So you just kind of want to get out there and just Google die cutting machines, but I use the Cuttlebug. So the Cuttlebug opens up. Now, this is stuck pretty well on my mat here, and it opens up, and then you have platforms. Now, my platforms are very well loved and used. So let me grab them out. There are three different sizes of platforms. This is platform A. These are platform B and platform C. B's a little bit thinner. Now, as you can see, I have done lots of cutting with these. And so they do wear out and they start warping, and so you eventually have to replace them. The other thing that you should know is you can also purchase longer plates so that you could do longer border pieces. Now, Close to My Heart doesn't have any dies that are longer, so this would suffice for anything from Close to My Heart. But we do have a few things that you can run through them. And the first thing is we have the thin cuts. Now, the thin cuts cut the shape by, you kind of sandwich them, and you have to use specifically the sandwich combination that it talks about in your own book that comes with this. But in this case, you can cut these shapes in there. Now, you can also then do the dry embossing with these plastic things. And we've not done this in club, but what they do is they make an impression, kind of like what I did using the bone folder in the card mate, or the card where I drew the lines. Well, this will make an impression as well. So this particular one makes an impression of just circles, and it adds a really nice texture to some of your projects. So all of these things that we're talking about were a little bit too much for a 101 class because we just ran out of time. But perhaps if we do a 102 class, we'll learn more about how to use these. Now, again, you cannot purchase the machine from Close to My Heart, but you can purchase both of these types of items from Close to My Heart. With a new catalog coming out, it'll be interesting to see which new ones they have. There are also other types of dies that you can purchase from other companies, and you can find them again at your craft stores. There are thicker dies that they're Sizzix dies, and they're about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch thick, and you can also purchase those to use on this. So I would say that if you're starting out and you're not ready to move into electronic die cut machine, that this is a really good option for you, because unlike the electronic die cut machines, the Cricuts, the Silhouettes, the cut and scans, and those kind of things, these, first of all, don't require power, although you can buy some that do, but they will emboss and cut, whereas for the most part you're going to be using your other machines for cutting. A lot of them have capabilities of printing and those kind of things too. But for just simple down-to-earth card making, this is a great option for you. Now you can see I can lift that up very easily because once I close that, it releases that suction that had it suctioned to my mat. So we are going to move from this type of a die cut type of a system to the electronic die cut system. Now, close to my heart supports the Cricut platform. Now, there are other die cut systems out there, but close to my heart uses the Cricut platform. Now, there are a couple different varieties of Cricuts. One is an older variety that is definitely probably less easy to come by because it's just older, and I actually have both types, and that's the Cricut Expression. Now, it's a machine, and I don't have it here, but the Cricut Expression allows you to take the cartridge that you see here, put it inside the machine, and make your adjustments to cut all sorts of shapes and sizes. I love my Cricut. Now, the newer Cricut platforms, and actually I think there are even a couple of different ones of those, but they allow you to take all of your images, upload them to their website, and in fact you can only use their website with that particular machine. That's it, the Explorer, and there are different varieties of Explorer. There's Explorer Air, but you can take them, and the beauty of that is you can use their design space to manipulate the shapes to some degree. So for instance, if I wanted this flower, and I wanted to have this banner kind of going over the top of them, you can even weld them together and do lots of fun things with them. Now, you are talking about quite a bit more of an investment once you start moving into a Cricut. Definitely, it's not a 101 machine. However, it is something that's very simple to use once you get the feel for it. I love my Cricut, and I look forward to the day when I actually have some crafting time so that I can play with my Cricut some more. For the last several years, each year, close to my heart has come out with a new Cricut cartridge that you can do different things with. So, you know, that's kind of one of those on the wish list things to do. The Close to My Heart cartridges are about $99 a piece, but they come with the cartridge, they come with 3 stamp sets, and then other supplies as well. So that makes them a pretty good value. And if you're using your 50% off part for that, that makes it an excellent value because those are full D-size stamp sets. But there's just so much you can do with that. So the next tool that we're going to move into is a much simpler tool than perhaps the die cut machines are. And we're going to talk about them. Close to My Heart has them in a couple of different varieties. They have the watercolor pencils, which I believe that probably some of you have tried. And then they also have the watercolor paints. So, of course, along with it, and those aren't really tools. Those are definitely consumable supplies, but they are also basic supplies that are really fun to have and you can do so much with. You can use paintbrushes, such as I have here, or you can use pens. And this is a water brush pen where you fill the base of it with water and then the water flows through, and so you can use that variety as well. So versatile, so many things that we can do that. And in the second video that I make, you will see us using some of these, well, probably the third video I make, using some of these techniques. Now, I've saved one of the items, or well, in combination, 2 of the items for last, because I know that they're items that some of you have already purchased. In fact, believe it or not, every single person purchased the AllPurpose Mat, and I love my AllPurpose Mat. This is a little bit odd to me because one side is sticky, the other side is smooth. So the sticky side obviously is going to be the side that you're going to put face down so that your mat doesn't slide around. The interesting thing to me is that the Close to My Heart logo on my mat is on the sticky side. But I'm going to turn this over, and you guys have seen this on many of my videos because it's not uncommon for me to have it there, just because for the longest time I would keep it on my surface. Now, the thing about this mat that I want you to learn is, first of all, never ever ever cut on this mat. This is not self-healing, and if you cut a hole in it, the hole's permanent. It's not going to fix itself. So the first thing is never ever ever cut on that. The second thing that is the positive alternative to that is it may not be able to be cut on, but it is very heat resistant. So if I had a hot glue gun and it was sitting on here, and you know how hot glue guns drip? Well, in fact, when I use a hot glue gun, I try to make sure that I have this mat down, because once that cools, it will just peel right off because it's heat resistant. So that is a fabulous feature of this type of mat. The other thing about this mat is you can use it as a palette. So when we're going through our videos, we will be doing some techniques using this mat to make neat effects on our card, because you can use it much like you would use a paint palette to do lots of different effects. So I was so excited when I saw that each of you had ordered this, because that is where we're going to spend part of our focus of our how-to videos for this week's lesson. Now, the other thing that we're going to talk about, and it can go hand in hand with this mat, is the embossing tool. Now, this is the heat embossing tool. So it works really well in conjunction with the mat because it gets quite hot. Now, you might think that looks very similar to a small blow dryer, and you would be correct. However, it gets much hotter than a blow dryer. And that's how its use comes into play. There are a few things that you can use with this. Now, the first simplest thing we'll be using in conjunction with the mat, but you can use it if you're working on a project and you're wanting it to dry quickly. You can use this to kind of help dry your project. The other thing that you can use is embossing powder. Now, you have to use embossing powder in conjunction with an ink. And there are a couple of different ways that you can do that. Now, sometimes some dye-based inks that stay wetter longer, you can possibly get away with putting embossing powder over the top of them. So this is a silver embossing powder, and it's going to be pretty opaque, so anything that you cover over the top is going to be pretty hidden in this. But if you're using a clear embossing powder, anything that you put over, any color ink that you use underneath, you'll go clear over the top and you will have that effect, but you'll get the color tones that match. Now, we will play with this in our embossing video to see how well, or if at all, because honestly I don't know, close to my heart's dye-based inks work with it if they stay wet long enough, because they do have to stay wet long enough for you to get the powder down. But there's also this type of ink, which you can also get from Close to My Heart, or really in a lot of different places. And this is called a Versamark ink. And it says right on it, a watermark stamp pad. It is a juicy wet stamp pad, and it stays wet long enough that you can put your colored embossing powders or even your clear embossing powders on top of it. And it works really well for that. If you want the colors to come through, and you don't, and these, you're a little concerned about these staying wet long enough, pigment ink pads also are the types of ink pads that work really well for embossing because they stay wet longer. So we will work on all of those things when we do our embossing video. And so that means that we have a couple of different videos coming up. One will be the embossing video, and then one will be using the mat more and more. And with that, we'll be using our watercolors as well. So come back for more videos. It will take me a few days to get those all up, perhaps even go throughout the whole month to get it all up, because it's going to take me some time with everything that's going on here with our move and things that I'm running a little bit behind. But come back, because we're going to get those projects done and get some fun things done with using our tools. So thanks so much for stopping by today, and remember, take some time to enjoy the little things. Have a great day. Bye.